Hello and welcome to the first of what are going to be 6 sessions of Veil Fantasy. This is a fantasy reskin that I've done based on one of my favorite PBTA games, The Veil, which is a cyberpunk RPG powered by the apocalypse. The Veil has the original flavor, and then there's like a butterscotch flavor, Veil Cascade, which is a little further up the timeline. And then the Kickstarter campaign for Veil Inheritance went through, and that's even further. That is the Cowboy Bebop inspired flavor. So that's probably strawberry. I don't know. Anyway, mint chocolate. Okay, I can deal with that. In any case, I've done a reskin of the playbooks and some of the moves and things like this. This is not too far a departure from the Veil, but we'll come back and talk about that when we get to the rules mechanics and all of that. If you're watching it may be that the gauntlet still exists and has not burned down yet. If so, this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, and this is an online gaming community that has a calendar, and we have a lot of games on that each month, online games, all of them recorded. If you're interested in AP videos, you can check out our playlist for that. It's a good way to check and see if there's a game that maybe you've been interested in, haven't had a chance to play or read the rules, but you're just really curious about. You can check that out. We've got a lot of games covered there, including games you might not expect us to have played, like Conan and Star Trek Adventures. So, because we are mostly a story game group. But anyway, besides our dirty little secrets there, we are going to get started on this. I'm going to talk about setup, about cats and all of those kinds of things, about our safety tools, and we're going to roll into city creation. Just for reference sake, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, just to do that because I always forget to say that. But we are getting started on that. So this is Veil Fantasy. This is a stories of characters that are in a fantasy city, and it is about their adventurers, or they have strange talents and things like that, but they are also living lives. It very much takes from the idea of cyberpunk as the Veil has presented it as a lens to explore life, to explore issues within the, in living through these strange and weird places. And so those are the kinds of stories that we are going to be looking at. Previously, when I've run this, it's become more picaresque, meaning that we've gotten to see some of the absurdity of the daily lives of some of these characters. I won't say that this is a comedic game, but it definitely has some weirdness that can arise within that. Your stories are stories about characters who are trying to make ends meet, are trying to, get the gig economy to work for them, are trying to hoard gold, are trying not to be cursed by witches, all of those kinds of things in a fantasy city that we will define. So our tone is really about daily life. It's not grimdark, neither is it over-the-top comedy, but it can edge into absurdity. And our topics, subject matter, include poverty, include fantasy, daily life, include the gig economy, include societal pressures, and there may be other things that arise depending on how we define what the play is actually going to include. Our safety tools for our game are both the X card, which I play with everyone here, so I know that you're familiar with the X card. I do want to emphasize that the X card is used for tone as well as problematic material. If there's something that feels wildly off tone, feel free to X card and we can roll back on that. But it's also there if we hit a problematic, objectionable things that occur within that. But our other safety tool is that we have lines and veils, which I know all of you have experienced before. Lines being hard lines, things that we're not going to have occur, and then veils being things that if they occur, we're going to fade to black on that. One of the things we've been trying is a more anonymous approach to lines and veils. So you will see that there is a tab on the character keeper that has lines and veils and has a checklist. You can click at any point, going forward, you can say, oh, these are the ones I definitely want for lines, and these are the ones I definitely want for veils. If there's something that's listed there that something that is not listed there that you want to have, go ahead and write it in and you can check the box there. Once we're done with character creation, I'll stop and I'll go through and say, here are our lines and veils for play. That is not set in stone. People can add to those moving on later in the campaign. So that is the basics. What we're going to do today is I'm going to have everybody choose their playbooks. We're going to talk about what that involves. And then we're going to do some talk about what our world and our city involves. We're going to make some choices about that. We're not going to fully define everything, but we're going to get some pieces into play. And then I'm going to ask you to go back and do your characters so you have at least a reference point to work from. Are there any questions before I get started? Okay. In that case, let's start with you, David. David, do you have a sense of what playbook you might want to do, or have you narrowed it down to a couple?
Yeah, I think I would like to go for playing the Summoned playbook. I think that's one I probably settled on. I was also very tempted by the Channeler, I believe it is, but I think I'm erring more towards the Summoner, the Summoned, I should say.
Okay, that sounds good. Leandra, what about you?
I was circling around three choices. It was either going to be the Bard, the Assassin, or the Guild Agent. I think I'm probably gonna lean closest to the Guild Agent because I've recently played Bard-ish or Assassin-ish characters quite recently. So Guild Agent is probably the one I'm gonna settle on. But
okay, I'm gonna put a little circle around that. Fraser?
Thinking about the Wizard.
Wizard. All right. And Alan, do you have a particular pick or two?
I've always had an attachment to heresy, so heretic.
Okay. So Leandra, you good with Guild Agent then? Okay. So with that in mind, keeping in mind those kinds of characters, what I want to do is we've got a tab here called the city. And on the city tab, I've got 4 areas: surroundings, layout, threats, and strengths. What I want to do is I want to have each of you do 2 picks. Essentially, so we'll have 2 choices from each of these lists. And then once we've done that, I want to talk, I want us to kind of brainstorm about what this place looks like, what this city is like. What are the things that are going to be present or not present, kind of the add ban list from Microscope to get some of those things on the table. For example, when we played this the last time, one of the things that Darren added in was no fantasy essentialism, like that like orcs were not always X, and there was nothing like that. That was an add ban kind of choice, and we can work with things like that. So with that in mind, I am going to go through the list left to right, and then we're going to Catan style it back, I think. But we will see. So David, which list do you want to start with? And then we'll roll through of this: surroundings, layout, threats, and strengths.
Yeah, so actually I did want to say, and I'm not sure where this would be the best place to put it in. And this is as well, isn't a hard one, but I kind of like to avoid doing the whole fantasy races thing. I'd prefer a bit more of a human-centric with weird stuff rather than elves and dwarves and whatnot. But I'm very open if other people would prefer to go that other more classic high fantasy way. I'm happy, but that's, yeah.
Let's stop off and ask about that. How do you feel about that, Alan, Fraser, Leandro? Do you have a strong feeling in the other direction?
I haven't played proper fantasy since 1986, so I won't miss any dwarves or elves.
Leandro?
Yeah, given that later tonight I'm playing a game that's all about high fantasy elves and dwarves, I wouldn't mind a bit of variation. So I'm not gonna miss if there aren't any fantasy races here.
Okay. Okay. Fraser?
Yeah, I don't mind it just being
Okay.
human centric.
Absolutely. So we'll go human-centric. There may be magical creatures and things like that, but in terms of our PC races and so on, the peoples that have cultures and so on, we've got humans at that status. So with that in mind, what is your pick off one of these lists, David?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for a threat of I'm going to say factional fighting, I think.
Ooh. So big thing in the city is that we have factions. They are fighting. There are battles going on that score. So let's then come to Leandro. Which direction do you want to head, to layout or strengths?
Damn, I was going to pick factional fighting. Now I have to think of something else entirely.
That is what will always happen.
Figures would be the one. Let's see. I think I'm gonna go with layout. I'm gonna go with etched by canals and waterways because I think that's quite evocative.
Excellent, excellent. Which takes us in that direction. Fraser, surroundings. What?
Among ancient ruins.
Among ancient ruins. Canals, ancient ruins. And then, Alan, what about strengths?
I like the idea of a center for learning that the factions fight over.
Ooh. Excellent. And then we go back that direction. Alan, not strengths. What? Pick one of the other three.
I'm not sure whether surroundings work. Among ancient ruins, can we be skybound?
Ooh, with canals. That's
what I'm wondering.
They just float and then they recycle.
High magic stuff. If you want that, we can say skybound.
Oh no! I tell you what. Sorry, traveling.
Okay. Even more interesting. I like that. Which brings us back then to Fraser. One of the ones has not been picked yet. Layouts, strengths, or strengths.
Oh, I like climate change fitting into that then.
Okay. So climate change and factional fighting as threats, which brings us to Leandro. Layout or strength?
I already picked something in layout, so I'll pick something in strengths.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah, it's a center of learning. Ooh, I do kind of like something technological. Maybe of like some bit of advanced technology there. Just like maybe somewhat bring it closer to the Veil.
Okay.
Figure out what this city's idea of advanced technology is.
Okay, yeah, we'll have the convo about that. And last but not least, David, one more pick for layout.
Bridged Island seems almost too obvious because I feel like we're already kind of edging towards that way. So I'm going to say twisted chaotic streets. If we've kind of got this like traveling city on the waterways and stuff, I can imagine that the streets are not the most orderly and well laid out.
Well, let's start asking some questions then. One of the questions I have, and I'm going to kind of put these out there. I'm going to go against my own advice, which is to avoid open questions on these kinds of things. And I may direct it a little bit, but we've got waterways, we've got these canals, this travels. Do we imagine that this is that the city and the sort of twisted streets are moving on a body of water and the water passes through? Or is it that the city moves and it just happens to have these canals and waterways? What are you thinking about that?
What
I
if-
was
Oh, you go ahead.
sure thing. So I was wondering maybe if like parts of this, if there's like lots of kind of like floating markets and that sort of thing, and so like bits of the city are much more migratory than others, and maybe buildings get repurposed quite often as like someone moves onto a different district or whatever, and someone else moves into their tower that they were using previously, that sort of thing.
So are we thinking then like we're on an ocean or a sea then? Is the city moving around in that, or is it moving down like a massive waterway and getting cycled through somehow?
When I picked traveling, I kind of imagined it floating about somewhere.
Okay.
If it's surrounded by ancient ruins, that sounds like maybe there are many islands on which there are ancient ruins and the city floats between them.
Oh, I like that we've almost got a sea that is bounded by those ruins, and it moves around through there, which gives us some kind of geographical space in the larger, like we're heading to the north, we're heading to the south, and so on. Okay. Fraser, what do these ruins look like that sort of surround and bound this ocean, this sea?
I think they look like that ancient advanced technology. Like we have advanced technology now, but it might be like not as good as the ancient ruins has, and maybe that's where we take our like climate change instructions from or something.
Oh, interesting. So like a lost science kind of thing?
Yeah.
So the idea that there was some higher fantasy technology that was out there and that has fallen, and these places have some access to that. Okay. Leandro, how big is this city? Is it massive and sprawling? Is it, the city state of the invincible overlord? Or is it a little smaller than that? Still big and still multiple neighborhoods and things like that, but not quite as massive. What are you thinking?
I think I'm kind of imagining, since if we're in a traveling floating city in like this ocean and we kind of have to keep cannibalizing these ruins, I kind of get a feeling it's a city that used to be big, that maybe pieces in our history we tell that like that it used to be big, and there are pieces that that we've left behind or been ruined by climate change or whatnot, and we're in a constant state of having to rebuild what we might have lost, and there are like sections of the city that are at risk of flooding or detaching, and because it's all such on a long time scale, because cities don't do these things quickly, there's these sort of problems always kind of catch up on people. It's like they don't expect, like, oh, the next generation will take care of that, it'll be fine.
David, how are the city sections connected? Are we talking metal structures? Are we talking ropes? Are we talking magic? Or is it vary? Is it catch as catch can?
Yeah, so I think some parts of it are sort of basically connected by big bridges and things like that. So they're a bit more those sort of bits of the city are a bit more rigid in how they're configured, essentially, and other bits are just like these huge chains tying it all together, which can, in theory, be kind of unhooked and reattached in different formations. It's probably quite a lot of effort to do so. I imagine there is some like magical reinforcement to these. I think it's probably kind of impossible engineering essentially, but it's primarily physical rather than like glowing bands of energy or what have you.
Alan, how much control do they have over the city's movement? Is it completely like these are the tides that take it, these are the currents, or is there some control, or does it vary? How do you think that works?
Once the city had purpose or control, now it is largely at the mercy of the elements. And perhaps the center of learning is trying to hang on to whatever knowledge they might be able to stitch together to give the city control again.
And let me ask then, we kind of come back around. We've said climate change. What does that climate change mean? What does it look like in the everyday lives of these people? Is it high temps? Is it monsoon? Is it rains? What are we expecting there? Fraser, yeah, you're the person who's worked on some eco and weather related things, so I'm going to put this one in your basket.
I like the idea that it's like still mysterious, like lots of different things bombard us and like that technology repels it, but it's still like something that we're learning about.
Is that climate change global? Or is it particularly in this area? Are other places suffering as badly? Do they have defenses?
Well, I guess it depends. If we have contact with the outside world, then it happens to everybody. If we don't have contact with the outside world, then we don't know.
I think having contact is more interesting. It opens up more things. So yeah, everybody has it. They have different ways of dealing with that. How variable are we talking? Are we talking like one day it's snow, the next day it's a hit with a drought, or is it a more slow? We move between these weird cycles of rain and cold and heat.
I would say sudden. That kind of stuff happens in Calgary already.
Okay, that's just Canada. I don't know what you're talking about, Lowell.
Yeah, I mean winter lasts a while, I guess.
At least you have climate rather than weather.
You only have change.
I was going to think here what else I needed to know on that. Leandro, the actual structures on these islands, how are they? What's their verticality? I guess I want to ask. Are they multi-level building up? Are they below the waves? Are they all built kind of flat? Does it vary? What do you think is going on with that?
I like the visual of it kind of building high, I guess.
Okay.
It kind of looks impossible, and we're using a bit of that advanced tech to like build up. So it does look like there are some islands that are definitely taller than others. There's some islands that are made of spires. There's some islands that are probably like built around a ruin and decide to take it along the city. But yeah, I just like this visual of a city.
Oh yeah. So building high, we're going to assume that that there's some connection between the height that you live in and your social status within this. Probably means that if anybody is sort of below the surface, they're probably in, you know, where they keep the flotation and you know, the under tunnels and things like that. All right. That gives us quite a bit to work with here. And
can I just
oh yeah,
think, could social status also determine how near the edge you are?
oh yeah,
because Leandro was talking about bits of the city sometimes have broken off. It seems to me the edge of this city is not a place to be when the climate turns nasty.
yeah. So in the center, more densely packed, higher, more protection, more established places, things that have been around for longer, so a greater continuity of existence. Whereas the further you get out, the more likely that, yeah, we had to rebuild this 30 years ago, or we had to rebuild this last week when grandma got torn off in a tornado, kind of thing. Okay, yeah, I like that very much. So we're gonna now, I want to let you loose on the character keeper itself. If you go to that, you will see that if you do a float over of the little triangle that's on the spiked things, it says what the assigned stat numbers are. +2, +1, +1, 0, 0, -1. So for those of you who have played, this is a reminder. Those of you who haven't played the Veil, I'm going to tell you how this works. The roles that you make are determined by you. You always get to choose what you're feeling, what state you're acting in, what emotion you're going to roll with. I tend to say it's a little bit like approaches in Fate Accelerated, but it's its own beast. It moves away from purpose to feeling, and that's all in your hands. And you might say, gee, as Rich always did, why wouldn't I roll with my best stat? And the answer to that is each time you roll on a stat, you're going to check one of those boxes. And when you hit the last box, when you hit that red box on that particular emotion, that particular state, it means that you have spiked out that emotion. And then there's additional mechanics that we will impose. It's not a great thing to have happen. The thing that offsets that is whenever you roll on the paired opposite feeling. So if you've got a bunch of ticks in mad and you end up rolling with peace, then you get to put a box in peace and remove a box from mad. So that is the basics of what you need to be thinking about in terms of that. Then your playbooks will tell you what moves that you get and what moves you have to choose from. And when we get a little further along there, I'll talk about your gear picks and your magic picks. Any questions about that or any of the descriptions?
Where it says name, is that us and the character?
I always put the character's name in there because I always forget to add a space for the player's name. You would think this would be a super easy thing to remember. It is not. And we can ignore the people, since that was essentially for the elf, dwarf, orc. But if you want to, if you like come from a particular cultural group, you can give that a name to that space.
Did you make a Pinterest board, Lowell?
I did not make a fantasy Pinterest board because because I wasn't sure what kind of fantasy we were going to be doing, but I will now.
Do you want us to answer the questions on the character keeper, Lowell, or do you want to ask us those?
I want to ask you those. You don't have to necessarily do this right this sec. You want to mention some of you will have start of session moves. I will never remember them. You will have to remind me that you have start of session moves. When people ask him if he's a wizard, does he always say it like that? Wizard.
I'm a wizard.
Fair enough.
The Zards ever get big, or are they always wee?
I will mention for people who want to look at the gear things, that's on the gear and miscellaneous tab. You start with 2 gold. That's pretty cool. And then you get 2 picks from the gear list. If your playbook allows you access to advanced gear, you can take those picks off the advanced gear list rather than the standard gear. If you are relatively impoverished and you only get 2 picks off of the standard gear list, you can still trade both those in to get 1 pick from the advanced gear list.
My playbook says I get an additional 2 gold. Does that mean I get 4?
Yes, it does.
All the gold.
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know if I should spend all that all at once.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that my people at one point, or at least some of us living in an area, including me, were like scorched by the sun.
Mhm.
And then I should be like blind, but I can see like magically. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I don't see it on the spell list. So. But
We does it. I mean, if that's just the general effect that you can see as if a normal person, but through magical sight.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I want from it.
Sure, absolutely.
And in fact, I will be upgrading it with far vision.
Yeah, the spell lists in there are very much. What are all the D&D spells I can remember off the top of my head?
Yeah.
That's what I've got there.
Drawback.
Sorry, Lol, I wasn't listening well enough. You'll need to run me through the relationship of gold to gear.
Okay, you start with 2 gold, and that you can spend later on as you wish. There's some examples of how much it costs, but you also start with 2 free gear picks. So like armor or healing potions or whatever, you get 2 picks from that list. If you get advanced gear, then you can pick from the advanced gear list rather than the standard one.
What's a vault?
That means that you have a place that you can safely store your money.
That's mine.
You can thank Blades in the Dark for that being on the list.
Actually, you know what? I might buy that later. I've got enough money anyway.
Yeah. Gold will be important. Of course, there are certain things that will cost gold. There might be moves that require extra costs on things. Some general guidelines for that. The other thing is, as you get advances, your first advance is free. But after that, it starts costing gold to get advances along with the XP. going to give you a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to have people start introducing themselves, and I'm going to ask some of the questions that come from your playbooks. Once we get introductions done, then we'll do the relationship questions. When we come to that in a second, I'm going to start with you, Leandro.
Oh, lol, just while I'm sorting out gear.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I take essentially take one of my weapon picks as being claws?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Cool. Cheers.
I was just listening to a podcast on sad bastard music, the British New Romantics and New Wave yesterday.
The obvious question is why, but I'm not going to go there.
It was interesting for me because it was sort of in my age range, but it was a whole set of things that I never listened to. Like I never listened to The Cure or New Order or any of that stuff. It all passed me by, even though it was very much in my age range.
So just reliving that youth.
Yeah, I was like, oh, really? That's what people were listening to. That's what the other people were listening.
I don't see any stuff for the wizard about gear.
Oh, so you will start with your spells, and then you get 2 picks off of gear. You just get access to the standard gear picks.
Okay.
Now, my move called True Name says I roll plus runes, and I must have at least 1 rune in order to do so. Where do runes come from?
So let me go and look at your playbook again to point at that.
Oh, hang on. Right.
Yeah, it's just below your Tome of Secrets. There's explanation of that.
Okay. So in effect, start with none.
Right.
Until I find out about major life events.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mute this.
Oh, how intrusive am I going to be?
All right. Leandro, while people are finishing out, I am going to start with you and have you introduce your character, and then want to ask some things about what it means to be a guild agent in the world and what that tells us about the city in the course of that. So let's have you go ahead.
Yeah, so my character's name is Opal Ocean. She, her. I don't believe that's her real name, because otherwise that would be this place is already wild enough. I put down her people as upper tier. Her family is, her family's mythologies are like they clawed their way from the edges from a district of the city that has since fallen under the waves. And now they've made it close enough to the top, and you better stay at the top. And that's kind of like, that's something passed along to her family. So her job's kind of like a fixer for a guild, an underworld guild called the Midnight's Cadence. They are they kind of pride themselves as being like a honor among thieves kind of mafioso group, who are kind of like technically not in the registered hierarchy of guilds, hence why they're underworld, but they kind of want to like it is a very sort of you come to them if you've got any problems sort of group, and they pride themselves on being quite egalitarian. Like there's no dynasty controlling it. There's not like, you know, a Corleone family controlling it. It's just like it is quote unquote merit, although it is more likely like, you know, who you know in that group. And I think Opal is new enough in that group, but has done quite well for herself. Hence why the fringe benefits she has are influence, which gives me +1 to pull, and some underlings. And yeah, I think there's a bit more questions there, but about the playbook. Do you want to ask those, or should I keep going?
Yeah, let me ask. So one of the things you're suggesting is that there is a hierarchy. There are established guilds that are named guilds, that are registered guilds, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking like in my head there is like part of the factional warfare that's going on in this city is like there is like a established hierarchy of like, okay, these guilds are more well renowned. Obviously, they're usually the oldest ones who've been around the city for a while, has weathered quite a bit, and so those are mostly kind of stable. And there's like a middle class and a lower class of guilds are kind of like constantly trying to climb over each other to get close to like the top half. I'm imagining like there's not many in the top half. There's like what, at least 2 to 3. They're the ones whose claimed lineage to the everlasting history of this city, who survived the longest. And as you go further down, kind of like the list, so to speak, it just like there's a lot of like guilds, you know, claiming territory or claiming like, oh, they have their own history, they have their own pull, they have their own like I'm imagining quite a bit like factions in a Blades in the Dark City.
Okay.
For sure.
And so certainly you're suggesting that length of time they've been around in history and legend helps. I mean, is a good indicator of their status, or something that they kind of use to push that?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Definitely like length of time and history determines quite a lot. And because it's so hard to accumulate that, because only time can do that, it's quite easy for the strongest guilds to push the other ones around because they have so much influence and history.
So you're an underworld guild. We know that's a criminal enterprise, and you're a fixer within that, you know, getting jobs, figuring things out. When we say criminal guild, is it like we cover everything, or do you think you are a guild that is focused on protection money or burglary or something like that, or is it more general? We're a larger crime organization.
I think they put out that they protect those. So like, you know, they're the ones that you can turn to if like the more official guilds like the alchemists or the Society of Librarians or whatever. They're not canonical. I don't know if there should be a Society of Librarians. Okay. They might be tough people. But if there's like people you can't go to, like the Underworld Guild, specifically the one that Opal Ocean is part of, definitely like they'll put out that because they flout the law and they move in between the cracks. They're far more helpful than quote unquote official guilds. But depending on who's in charge, it's usually more often than not, it's usually trying to like entrench themselves in the city, trying to like build up their own power.
The established guilds, one of my last questions, I have these established guilds. Are they like, this is definitely the Cooper's Guild? That's what they do. They do cooping, you know, making barrels, all that. Or is it well, this is the company of worshipful Fletchers, and they do a whole bunch of different things, and maybe they have a geographic thing, or is it territorial? How are the guilds themselves like organized? How are they broken down?
I think it is probably like the first choice you pick, as in like this is the guild that kind of does this,
Okay.
because we're in a floating city that's beset by climate change. It's far simpler for the guild to be like, oh, this is what we do. This is what we do for the city. This is why we're important. Don't look down at us, Coopers. I mean, what if we're gone? Like, what happened to your barrels, huh? There you go. That's how they kind of take pride on that. And what marks criminal guilds is different is that they do a little bit of everything, while quote unquote official guilds kind of like have just their one thing.
Okay. Let me ask you one more question that's kind of not on the defining of the world list. But when you give me a good sense of how that relates to the control and power here, but let me ask you a question about yourself. You keep mentioning, at least you did a few times during the start of this, family. And the suggestion I heard, the implication was that your family is not part of this criminal organization, but that they are kind of ambitious and out there. So what's up with them?
They are a large family. And we don't have to put them on the screen because that'll be a lot of NPCs. I think there's like 6.
Right. Okay.
I have like 5 siblings, and our family's gonna hedge their bets. Like, okay, you go into politics, you go into academics, you go into engineering, you go into that, and they went through the official guilds until they came to Opal, and it's like, okay, you're gonna go into you do what you want to do. Well, no, because my backstory is that they sold me to an apprenticeship. I think they ran out of things for me to do, and they got an offer from the Midnight's Cadence, so to speak, and like, hey, we can. I mean, if she seems like a bright kid, we can show her some stuff.
Okay. That gives me a pretty good sense. I'm going to come back to you when we talk about those connections and relationships. Let's hear about Arklo the Dawn.
Yeah. Arklo is a wizard or a wizard, depending on, how silly you are, I guess. They have close to dark hair, like black or dark blue, I would say. Kind of like a Greek Mediterranean complexion. I have a picture down below. They have like, I used one of my picks for fancy clothes because it looks very fancy to me. Like really rich fabric with lots of like cool intricate patterns and stuff like that. Like a half cloak that's like cinched to one side, and just in general looks really cool. And the staff, I'm imagining it was like a tall rod with like that orb on top, but then where there's like the serpents, there's like 6 serpents or something like that. I imagine those as like old like dragon worms, like children or something like that was killed and then like are grafted to the metal that grants it power. And yeah, I got magic.
That you do. It looks to me like your job is as a storm singer you have listed there. What do you suppose that is? What does that imply for what your character does to gig?
I'm thinking when there are sections of the ancient defenses that don't work, then they gather up these storm singers and we like beat back these encroaching climate change effects, essentially. Oh yeah, and he's blind, but not really blind. He was like sun scorched, and so his eyes are like supposed to be blind. I'm thinking like, I don't know, some sort of too much radiation go through the clouds or something like that.
Okay.
But now he kind of sees in like, I don't know, infraredish or something like that. Or
you have sun scorched listed as a people. Are there lots of you that have gone through this and have that same sort of condition?
I think it was like a particular event that happened in like a specific area of the city where like just like this pocket of radiation got through and scorched like a neighborhood or something like that. So it was just everybody who was living there.
that seems reasonable. So how did you learn to be a wizard?
So I think that I'm not a typical wizard. I'm more like a
So you're
hedge wizard.
atypical. Okay.
Yeah, and I think at least what our globe believes is that it was like literally imprinted on him with the radiation that was like scorched him basically.
So he didn't have magic before that occurred?
Yeah.
And
he's the
he's
Silver Surfer. Okay.
fair enough. And so the spells that he's learned, the effects that he's learned is a little bit somewhat self-taught, maybe picked up some things, but not any kind of formal training.
Yeah, and I think like the formal school of wizardry would be like considering the people that can do magic like his as like an apostate type thing, like shunned to the sides, but still necessary in that they can do the storm singing type deal, so they keep them around.
Oh, so the storm singing is something unique to your magic?
I think so, yeah. Or maybe like our particular brand of it, like maybe we can beat back that particular radiation now or something like that, but other wizards can do
for other wizards.
Mhm.
How is it that they learn their magic? Is it, a master apprentice relationship? Is it going on quests? Is it, oh, you're a wizard, Harry, and they go and have to go to classes and stuff?
Yeah, I don't think it would be like blood determined. I think it is like a learned skill that takes a long time, like a scholarship type thing. And I think it has to do with like philosophy of the world. You have to learn how the world works before you can like literally break it. So they like actually twist and warp reality with it.
So purely a skill thing. It's not based on any kind of genetic predisposition. It is people who have the ambition and will to be able to learn that. Okay.
Yeah.
And who has access or control to that?
I think it would be I think it's like a pretty guarded thing. Like maybe in schools they'll watch out for people with a particular propensity for philosophy and stuff like that because I think it's rooted in philosophy, but they keep it. They only recruit people in like a very political type of way, like the people that will go along with the establishment that they've set up and stuff like that. So even if you have like a really big knack for it as a kid and you're living on the lower tiers, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get recruited into the school.
And what is your family status? Do you have siblings? Do you have parents? Are you a orphan? What do you imagine?
Well, usually I always go sad and orphan, so let's go family. I'm happy. Break the mold.
So you think that there are some more of these sun scorched, or they're normal people, or?
Yeah, I think that we would have all been living together. I think we were generally. I think it would have been like almost rag to riches. Like now that I can do magic, I can provide for them since I have my fancy clothes.
Yeah, and that actually was my next and final question. Where'd you get those fancy clothes?
Yeah, I think I just make pretty good money, but also it's maybe like a the sun scorched or everyone who does magic like me, maybe we make it like a point of pride to have like nice clothes to elevate us above.
Okay.
To get signal out and to like say that we're not afraid of the establishment, You can see us.
Is that go for just the sun scorched, or is it for all mages that they want to be sharp dressed wizards?
Yeah. Let's say just the sun scorched. I'm sure there's other ones that want to be on the DL.
Okay.
But not us. We flaunt it.
that you do. All right. Well, we'll come back to you when we come to the connections thing. Let's come to David. David, tell us, and I'm very curious, tell us about your summoned here.
Yes, certainly. So I'm playing the summoned. I am a bound, a spirit bound into a fleshly body in this world. I think this, standard, designation would be a demon, and I'm thinking very much in the sort of mold of an incubus type type thing. So they appear probably on the masculine side of things, but with a slight air of androgyny to them. They've got that kind of well-muscled body, but just very lightly softened, kind of in that Dionysian way, but very angular features, like inhumanly angular features. Their skin is chalk white. They have deep red eyes, big curling horns at the side of their head, sort of bony wings, a prehensile tail. They are clearly an unnatural creature. They do not currently have a name, or they may have a name. They do not know their name. Or rather, they haven't chosen a name. They may have been given one at some point in the past, but that is not a name that they have chosen, and it's not a name that they can now remember. For the time being, referring to them as demon is perfectly fine.
And any normal person seeing you is going to go, what the what, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So they specifically, they said they obviously clearly appear to be not of this plane. Though they are in the body that they are in, they are perfectly mortal. They are a living being. They are, that they are compatible. They can actually reproduce. They don't believe that they have, but they're not sure. As I say, there's a lot about themselves they don't know about. Likewise, they don't really have any particular attachment to gender. It's not that relevant to them. They will generally quite happily accept however people choose to view them. So they start with a few weird aspects to their physical personage. So I have gone off menu with a couple of these, so we'll just run them by and check they're okay. But so what I've gone for are eyes which can see the unusual, which in this case I think they can both see like other spirit beings, and also like into human dreams. They can fly through the assistance of their wings. And they have kind of what I'm going to call like imperfect shape shifting. So I think they can take on the appearance of other people. They can't do like turning into a horse or anything like that. And I think as well, their eyes, they can't change. Their eyes are always those deep burning red eyes. So they can't pull off like flawless impersonations, but they can certainly pull off a close enough impersonation for people who might want a particular individual to spend time with.
Is that your gig? Is it you're being a companion, an escort?
That's right. Yep. They are. They're very personal. They are a demon of. So they are a demon of pleasure, essentially. Not purely sexual, but so one of the things I'll do is they'll escort people, and they'll basically be one of those like bad influence friends who's like, oh no, you want to do that, go on. And I think so I think they kind of get by both by actually being a paid companion and also just by kind of like mooching off of other people. One of the pieces of gear I took was good lodgings and comforts, which I think is possibly less that they have a house, more that they can usually find a house where they're welcome
They are expert couch surfers.
Yep.
Okay. How long have you existed in this form? How long has this demon occupied this flesh?
I think this is one of the things that they do not know. They have probably been aware of their existence for maybe a month or two, not very long. They believe that they probably have existed for longer than this, because they at the moment they definitely don't remember being summoned, and they know that logically they must have been summoned. But
is this fleshy suit that you wear yours, or are you occupying somebody else's?
It's theirs.
Okay.
It's theirs.
Okay. All right.
Oh, the other thing that I just on sort of the more like the physical stuff around them, the fault I took for them to counterbalance their weirdness, I thought was an appropriate one for our setting, is that they have an intolerance to salt water.
Ooh, that's a good pick. I like that. How do people in this city react to magical creatures, summoned constructs, golems, things like that? Any of that stuff? How do they react?
I think that they are uncommon but not unheard of.
Okay.
It's and I think they will get looks on the street that it will be certainly like in the kind of more like regular people districts of the town. It's certainly unusual. In the places where more magically empowered types hang out, it's probably more common. I think actual embodied spirits are very rare. I think things like golems and kind of summoned spirits, like just incorporeal spirits or sort of familiar spirits, are more common.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of a factor. So the way I see it is that they are is essentially just summoning kind of a fairly temporary incorporeal spirit is something someone who knows magic can do without, maybe not without difficulty, but it's not that much of an effort. Similarly, binding a spirit into a golem or another construct, there's an element of difficulty to it, but it's a fairly simple way of doing it. I think spirits summoned in that way tend to be a lot less sentient.
Okay.
Whereas actually summoning an embodied spirit is a much more difficult work of magic.
Excellent. We're going to come back to you on connection questions.
Yeah.
Let's come to Alan. Alan, tell us about your heretic.
Okay, so our heretic is Damser the Cleaner. He's younger than he looks, but otherwise resembles your typical night soil collector and sewer cleaner come rat catcher. I've put his people as the poor and the destitute. Yes, he exists in society just as that. He makes a crust cleaning drains and unblocking toilets and making sure that houses continue to be well connected to the extensive sewer system underneath the city.
That sewer system that dumps then into the ocean, into the sea?
It does ultimately. But I think perhaps back in the day when it wasn't so free moving, I think perhaps that there were other systems for dealing with sewage, and some of those still exist. But that is his outward appearance. But of course, he is the last brother librarian that he knows about, at least. And he has a sanctuary, which he calls the library, And I've located it outside the central core of the city, but not at a precarious edge.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff in there that there's one thing in there he doesn't understand. And that is a potent and damaged arcane device which may be alive. But from the library, he can access the vast network of ancient underground vaults, caverns, cavernous, echoing, and endless. I imagine that we talked about narrow, twisting, chaotic streets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the sewer system is not unlike that. And of course, that gets me entry to any friend's house, whether they think they're well protected or not. And I might suggest unfriendly houses, whether they think they're well protected or not. The thing that's important is that I hold the last and most important book. My order's Tome of Mysteries. Tome of Secrets, I beg your pardon. An enigma wrapped in a mystery until I open it. And of course, that's why I don't open it. Don't open the book.
Fair
was
enough.
the last thing that the master librarian told me before the persecutors got him. Because there are persecutors, just so you know. And I've described them as monstrous, well-armed, flying humanoid, I think probably mechanical, servants of the scholars. Librarians hate scholars because they borrow books. What else?
Well, let me ask you this. How long has it been since your order was destroyed? Is this a relatively recent thing? Have you been on the run for a few years? What do you think?
I think that the order's been gone for generations.
Oh.
And I think that every librarian, every brother librarian looks for a talented youth to train. And once you have a talented youth to train, you become the master librarian and they become a brother librarian. And I am the brother librarian because my master was taken and I have yet to identify an appropriate apprentice.
And so we've got these scholars. They constantly search for the hints of who the new librarian is so they can finish them off.
So they can get the Tome of Secrets.
Tome of Secrets. And are they part of the school that's at the center of the thing, or are they more of a weird order?
No, I think they are the people in the high spire at the center of the city, where the remains of the city's technology is controlled from. And what librarians say is that they're not actually scholars. They are simply glorified engineers.
Oh my gosh. Applied physics. Oh my God. All right. Yeah. So this feels like something that's definitely outside of sort of the religious orthodoxy. It's more in with the kind of the sense of scholarship and philosophy and things like that?
I mean, I think for the librarians, it's taken on a nature of faith, because our faith is that the Tome of Secrets, when the time is right and it is opened, will solve all the problems. It's just the time has to be right. Otherwise, who knows what you could release? And preferably when the scholars are not in a position to abuse the power that the library holds.
What kind of power, what kind of influence do these scholars have? I mean, are they well regarded in the city, or are they still viewed as something sinister?
I think they're top of the pile.
Okay.
Because without them, well, apart from anything else, the sewer system would probably pack up, though I would claim that I'm keeping it going. But yeah, certainly I think that they hold the mysteries of how various bits of the city work.
Are you a magic user?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's not entirely true. The tome, my belief in the tome, does grant me certain capacities, because what librarians know is that everything has a real true name. And having that true name, or a good guess at it sometimes, gives you power over people. And that's why both the previous master librarian and myself operate as sewage operatives, because it gets us into people's homes. We can look about, we can find things out about them. And on the basis of that, we can determine what their true names might be.
So you're going through people's shit, literally and figuratively, to figure them out.
Yes.
All right. That's all. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page on that. All right. Let's do this.
You could tell a lot from a good motion.
Yes. Let's take a 5 or 6 minute break. When we come back, we'll do those connections. And I'll also have you pick a trouble that you're engaged with, and we'll talk about that. So take 5 and we'll be back. So I'm very excited. This may not have as much resonance for you as for me. I don't know. Depending on your fantasy upbringing, they're doing Power Behind the Throne as the next one for Fear of the Black Dragon. Like not this one, but the one after. I think that is in the queue. That's one of my favorite Warhammer modules.
What is it?
It's called Power Behind the Throne.
Oh, I don't know anything about Warhammer.
It is a wonderful module that I ran, and the players broke it, and they got kicked out of the city, and that was the end of that $20 I spent right there. We're going to, my Hoosier accent. We're going to do connection questions. The way we're going to do this is you have 4 of them on your sheet. You can put them out there, or you can say, I think that's this. These don't have a mechanical weight because we're not doing deaths, because we don't have an oath keeper. But you'll note those under other notes. And then the other thing we're going to do, and we'll do this after everybody's done all their connections, is I will have you look on the beliefs, trouble, and XP sheet, and I've got several sitches and NPCs, and you'll pick a situation and pick an NPC so that we have a trouble that you're in right at the start of the game. So let's come to you, Opal. Opal, let's start with your connection questions. We'll do all 3 of them, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, there's some interesting ones. Your guild crushed the hopes and dreams of someone close to, I'm gonna say, Damsa. That seems like something we could inadvertently do.
Inadvertently.
Well, that's what we say. You know, it's a lot of moving parts of the city.
So what happened? What did Damsa's few friends or allies you managed to crush underfoot?
Yeah, well, crushed is a strong word. More like gently persuaded that their hopes and dreams were kind of getting in the way of what we're doing. Look, there's some very nice. Oh, go ahead.
Can I suggest that it was a local orphanage where I was hoping to recruit my apprentice?
It's not that we did that orphanage wrong, you know. We redistributed those orphans to other orphanages. We just really needed that space.
Yeah, of course you did. Yes, I've been looking for them ever since.
By the way, Redistribution of Orphans is my favorite band now. So there we go. All right, I like that. Yeah, so that seems good.
The next one. Let's see. I always like when someone has leverage over me. That's a bad thing to admit. It's weird to admit. Blank knows something you did to cross the guild and has kept that hidden for now. I think that sounds more like our summoned, who I should figure out, what am I going to call him?
There's a question mark for that.
Yeah. No, I think Opal calls him question mark. There we go.
So let me ask you, what did you do to cross the guild, and how did our summoned find out about that?
What's less cross the guild and more like cross my guild master. I forgot to mention they have an agenda.
Okay.
Their agenda. I need to come up with a name for them. Something as ridiculous as Opal Ocean. I'll figure that out later.
Sure.
Their 2 agendas are destroy rivals and set up their children. And I particularly disagree with the latter, because the point of the Midnight's Cadence is we need to like we're not setting up dynasties here. That's how we've lasted. Guildmaster is being like, my kid needs a leg up in the world. And I think what I did is I basically like solicited the the services of question mark. That's not their name. That's just what Opal calls them. Feel free to disagree with that anytime. To like basically distract / kind of like take my guildmaster's kids' mind away from doing stuff for the guild, and just like, this is your job, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. I am perfectly happy to work as a honeypot.
So set them up to distracting them of the crucial thing, so they were embarrassed and diminished in status.
Yeah.
Are summoned. Do you think you realized that was going on at the time or afterwards? How did you come to understand the dimensions of this?
Yeah, I think I may have suspected when I was being hired.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't necessarily know, but I think I may have suspected. But it doesn't really bother me that much. Organizations aren't really my thing. They have no inherent emotional content, so it's people that matter to me.
Fair enough. I like that. Leandro, what's your last one?
The last one is, I guess I have to ask Arklo, do they care a lot about money?
My clothes suggest yes.
Okay, I think I lent you a lot of gold when you really needed it.
Okay.
It's nice to have a wizard, to know a wizard, a storm singer.
All right. That gives us 3. When we're done with everything, I'll come back and ask you about your trouble. Let's go. Speaking of wizards, let's go to that wizard. And what are your contact questions? Connections.
Blank has seen my arts go terribly and tragically wrong. Could be demon if they're old. Maybe they could even have been in that place and not been like burned and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's possible something I wouldn't be aware of yet, but I think that would be quite a cool, recovered memory to have. So yeah, I like that.
Awesome. When you popped open that ozone layer and got that radiation burning down on you, I like that.
Yep. Which I'm now convinced is that order did that to me. What's this button do up in the tower?
Oh yeah, engineers.
Let's see, what's another good one? Oh, I've gone into blank streams without permission several times. Who wants that?
Me.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'm very happy for you to have wandered into Damsa's dreams. Does Damsa know that you've wandered into his dreams? Is it implied?
It's up to you.
I think we're quite interesting if he didn't know at this point.
Yeah, or maybe you know while the dream's happening, but then you wake up and you forget.
And forget stuff, of course.
Yeah.
Damsa, what are your dreams like? What would be the imagery or just a couple of details about what he would have seen?
Oh, I think it is the central spire of learning, but decked out as an enormous library. Just no brainer. That is the librarian's dream.
It's your memory palace.
Indeed.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. And your last one?
I crafted a powerful enchantment for blank, but they haven't revealed the purpose to me. Or, though exhausted, I use my magics to heal blank.
Which one do you feel is more appropriate for Opal?
Oh, is that a question to me or to Fraser?
That's actually for Fraser. Which do you lean towards there?
Maybe a powerful enchantment. Sounds cool.
Like maybe essentially work through you for something for her organization.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of enchantment was it? Did they provide the plans to you? Like make this, or did you have to they say we want it for something for this purpose?
They haven't revealed the purpose to me, so I'd like to imagine that it's like, yeah, like they gave me these blueprints for it, and then I just had to like construct the thing, and I'd be like, what the hell is this? Shut up. Don't ask questions.
Is that good for you, Opal?
Yeah, I've got some ideas about that now.
Okay.
Hopefully
yeah,
I'm
I
not-
like that.
Hopefully I'm not responsible for those kids, I guess.
That's how you relocate orphans.
Yeah.
It's an orphan teleporter.
Yeah. It just needed a drop from a single tier of an orphan to land on it, and then it just put the last ingredient.
That got dark. Let's come to our summoned. And also, I do want to mention, so I did notice the emotion that you chose for your character that you have opened up at the start is joy, which I love because I haven't seen that before for a summon. So that's great.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I thought it would be quite fun to play with. So yeah, my first question is, I think actually I quite like this one for Damsa, which is, I suspect that Damsa knows more about my origins than they let on. Ooh. Because I feel like, you know, with the whole true name stuff the order has going on, maybe they know more about how a being like me was summoned.
Very happy to take that one.
Excellent.
Cool. And again, depending on how secretive you want to be, it may not be that I know it's specifically Damsa is the representative of the order, but you know, we can play that by ear.
Maybe that's what's in the Tome of Secrets.
So I think I'm going to go with Arklow helped me heal or repair some unusual damage I suffered. So I think at some point through I think that I was maybe you know, someone jealous or otherwise ill-disposed towards me did like push me off essentially into the sea, which you know I reacted quite badly to. It you know caused like chemical burns essentially.
Oh, okay.
It was like the Terminator.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds cool because I have a spell already that's create element, so I could have like created the element that you needed or something. Unless you just heal like a normal person.
That's cool. I'm wondering actually, yeah, maybe if it was like yeah, maybe it was like use some sort of like elemental fire magic or something to heal me.
Cool.
I figure I can't normally heal by just like sticking my hand in fire, but you know, you managed to like kind of counteract the elemental imbalance caused by the water.
Mm-hmm. And then your last one?
And yeah, my last one is that I think that Opal trained me to blend in with the city.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say Opal seems to be someone who knows how to navigate, you know, different social groups and stuff. So I think that she may have helped acclimate me to.
Yeah, I was thinking like that's probably why I went with you for this scheme to distract or to ensnare a guildmaster's kid, because I know you. I think we were asked when you were asked like how you figured out that plot, I think I just straight up told you. I think I probably shouldn't trust summon demon, but I mean they don't know their stuff from me, so they can trust them well enough.
Your summon seems so trustworthy and polite. It's all good. Nothing bad can come of this. So that brings us to Damsa. Damsa, what are your 3 connections you're going to establish?
Okay. I like the idea because Opal is coming across as this kind of slightly cynical wheeler dealer so far, is my impression. And so I want to give Opal something to live for that is more important than that. So I brought Opal information about someone they care about who remains within the thrall of the persecutors.
And who is this person?
I mean, I'd be very happy for Opal to tell us.
I think it might be one of my siblings, the one who went into academics. And here's the thing you'll find out as well. You find out what Opal's last name is because you know this person is in the thrall of the persecutors. I don't know what their first name is, but their last name is Vickers. They are well ensconced. Imagine this is a sister, because I can't be making a character without adding a sister apparently. It's inevitable. Yeah.
So are you saying to me, Opal, that I know you're Opal Vickers?
Oh no. Opal Ocean is not my name. You just know my last name is Vickers.
Okay, so that's just half a true name to find. Thank you.
Yeah, you're nearly there. You're nearly there. I mean, you know who my sister is. Her name is Ella Vickers. I
know her true name.
Yeah. It's up to you to define what a true name is as what your runes say.
Yeah, I definitely think you would have a rune on each of them from that.
Okay.
What's your next?
I was toying with someone helping me wrest someone out of the persecutors grip, but I think I don't want to go with that one. I think I would prefer to say that the demon that I call the borrower, and perhaps that relates to what I conceivably don't even know I know about their origins. So the borrower saved me from the persecutors and hasn't asked for anything yet.
Yeah, I quite like that. So I had some metaphysical thoughts in the lead up to this game. So I like the idea that they're kind of one of the like spirit realm things going on here, is that there are essentially like angels and demons, though it's less a morality thing. And I like the idea that kind of the demons represent human emotions, so they're I suppose more an order chaos split, but like angels are essentially ambassadors of like high concepts and stuff, like, you know, angel of death, angel of retribution. So I'm wondering if maybe these servants of the persecutors may be kind of angelic in nature, and perhaps that's why I helped you and haven't asked for a favor yet, or perhaps it's just because I'm, you know, I'll call it in when I can think of something.
Yeah, you seem a very polite demon, and I think that Hamza is hoping that you've forgotten about it. And that leaves me with, I listened to Arklo's confession of guilt when we both thought death was coming. What do you think, Arklo?
Sure, that sounds good.
What would Arlo be guilty for? Feel guilty for?
When we both thought we were close to death. It could be like a survivor's guilt thing. I'm sure some people died when it was sun scorched, but yet I was the one that, like, one of the people that was granted power. So I have
Others
like
died. Others just became blind and didn't gain the ability to see. Okay.
yeah. So
And
other people's pain became a blessing.
damn, so what was going on that you both thought you were going to die?
I think that I sneaked Arklow. Are we suggesting that there was some kind of observatory that opened into a space we hadn't expected it to open into, and that's what caused this sun scorch, this beam of bright light to hit people?
Yeah, sure. That sounds cool.
Okay.
So I think I probably sneaked Arklow into this place where he thought he could find some stuff out. But it turned out to just open this hole in the ozone layer. And I just was lucky to be looking the wrong way.
Except that he had other people with him on the process when the sun scorch thing happened. So that's just to make the fiction work. So how did that?
Well, I think that perhaps we hadn't realized that when he pressed that button, because I sense he is an inveterate presser of buttons. This is not a wizard one takes to a museum. And so I don't know why he wanted to get there, but I took him there, and I think that it opened this gap into a hall that where we thought we were just going to find something contained, and in fact this entire hall of people was flooded with and were sun scorched. And then there's a whole bunch of them wandering the city in various conditions of blindness or not.
Does that work for you, Fraser? Does that stick
I
with
like
your conception?
Yeah, I like that. I was the one. Sounds on brand.
Makes your guilt work. All right.
I will admit I feel a little bit of guilt because I got you to the button.
Yeah, it's like a little winch. It was like cloud cover winch, don't turn. And I'm like, oh shit.
Huh. I like that. All right, let's come back. Let's get everybody's trouble. So establish trouble, an NPC, a sitch, and an NPC here. Opal, and feel free to modify these or come up with a fresh one. But what is a situation that you're sort of knee deep in right now?
Ooh, sorry. The first sitch is basically made for me. I mean, if my characters either have a sister or an ex who's angry at them.
Okay.
You know what? Minus. It was either gonna be that or someone keeps posting jobs. We use the patron. No, let's go. Yeah, former lover who knows your deepest secrets. Sure,
Okay.
Why not?
And who is your former lover?
Ooh, let's see. Who has the most ridiculous name?
There are a lot of ridiculous names there.
They're quite ridiculous. Oh my god! Wow.
I worked hard to make these names awesome.
Yeah, let's go with the aspiring moneylender, Song Cullen.
Okay. I'm making note for myself. All right. Excellent. So that will bring us then to Fraser. What do you want to have as your trouble?
I want the magic item passed through your hands. Perhaps you stole it, or maybe you just handed it off. Now others involved in that chain have begun to die off in horrific ways. I would like it if it could be that thing that I was making for the guild.
Ooh, okay.
Like it, maybe whatever it was being constructed needed my help, but also others like engineers and other things, and other people now have begun to die. So I'm like, am I going to get God or?
Who is another person who is in that chain then?
Um, maybe I would like it to be the Atulia Ray distinctive rich artist.
Okay.
Maybe they shaped the actual device or something like that.
Yes, I like that. Grab that. Name real quick. Copy. We'll drop that in this thing. I'm making a little note for myself at the bottom.
So you would think it would be the unlucky freebooter, but I supplanted that.
Supplanted
it. It's over. No more genre convention.
All genre conventions are exploded, disrupted. Are summoned. What is the trouble that you're in?
I think I've got to take a Pissant Fallen God has somehow identified you as crucial to their reascension. They've accumulated a small but fanatical cult.
Oh, and who is the person associated with that cult?
It is Grimfinger, the rough patient corrupter.
Excellent. Paste that. Put that name in there. And finally, let us come to Damsa.
I was hoping to have found a fallen god in the form of a tortoise in the sewer, but I'll pass on that one. I think when an old friend died, you agreed to help get their soul to someone. Now the bad people have come sniffing around, suggesting there's trouble looming. I think that the old friend is the master librarian.
And what is their name?
Good question. Hang on, let's have a look.
You can take from those or come up with your own.
Yeah. No, there are some nice ones here. Let's have a look. Right. Oh, now, God, there's some great ones here. Gajendra, whose cover was a humming rowdy bard.
I like it. But he was a secret librarian. Excellent. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Well, probably this is sort of the prologue, but we are going to do any start of session moves now, and they'll roll into next session. So we won't do them at both sessions. We'll do them now, resolve them, take a look at those, and play through. So who has a start of session move? Okay, let's start with our summoned then. What is your start of session move?
So my start of session move is the birth. At the beginning of each session, roll 2d6 without adding a state. On a hit, the MC asks me a question. There's a list down at the bottom of my character keeper, and I answer it. On a miss, I ask the question, and the MC answers it.
Then let's have you roll.
Yeah.
Here is the roller. I did put the feeling wheel, the emotion wheel, in the middle of the roller too.
That's an 11.
An 11? Look at you right out of the gate, rolling well. So let me ask you a question from that list then. Grab that keeper, pull that up here at the top. So This is a good one to start with. What is your purpose?
My purpose is to bring pleasure and enjoyment to people in general. I think particularly those who what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I think both to those who are kind of like already having a good time. I think there's an energy to them that like calls to me, but also to people who kind of need are kind of lacking happiness or joy in their lives. It's very much I see it as to bring kind of more like instant gratification and than deep emotional happiness sort of thing. But yeah, that's
And
sort of be a salve, I suppose. Yeah.
Is that something you've realized just recently that's really what your purpose is?
I think that's a deeper calling. It may not be their greatest purpose, but for now, they know that's what they have to do, and that's what they're there for.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I've had problems with Roll for Your Party where I set a background and then nobody can see it. And I don't know if that's a more recent thing. I used to be able to have people see it, but I will muck with that later. Who else has a start of session move? Leandro, let's go to you. What is your start of session move?
It's called Black Marks. At the start of the session, you roll plus Black Marks. I don't have any right now, so is it just a flat roll?
Yeah.
Cool. And then we'll see what happens. All right, so that's on a miss. Everything's fine right now. I'm in good standing with the guild.
Are all good. None of your rivals are hunting you down. There's no bad things. It's all good.
Do I get a XP on that miss?
Well, because Mask does that thing. Yeah, let's give you XP on that miss.
Yay.
Why not? So let's walk through. Let's get some scenes. Let's set up where people are at, and we'll see if we can start making some trouble here for everyone. And in that regard, Arlo, I noticed that you chose a number of things, but not a place to live. And so you have a hand-to-mouth existence. Essentially, what kind of place, do you crash? Where do you live? Are you in a flop house? Are you sleeping on the streets? What is that?
Yeah, I think it's like on the streets.
And like what kind of neighborhood are you in that you are crashed there?
I think, is it too late to pick a place to live?
Well, you could certainly spend one of your gold to say that right now you actually have a room that you're letting for a little while.
Oh, now I want to be homeless then.
Okay.
I'll be at a lower tier place. Yeah.
So yeah, you're in a lower tier place. It is getting on towards morning. I assume since we're on the outskirts, there's probably the gaps between the sections of the city are louder, are larger. So we hear that sound of kind of crashing waves. It's probably wet here. And you wake up and you hear, like, just down, there's a fancy dress wizard. Have you seen him? Yeah. Down that way? Thanks, buddy. What do you do?
I disappear.
How do you disappear?
With high wizardry.
Ooh, you wanna go straight to high wizardry to make yourself invisible, huh?
Yeah, I don't have a normal magic spell for it. Oh, but I don't have mana yet, so I can't, right?
Yeah, you just woke up. Well, no,
Okay.
you can roll with a 0.
Oh, okay.
I have no problem you rolling with a +0 on that.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do it.
Okay. And your desired effect is to make yourself invisible, to hide yourself from sight from any pursuers right now.
Yes.
I love where this is going. Let's have you roll.
Okie dokie. Magenta dice, don't let me down. Yeah, it's a 4.
That is a 4. So the good news is you get to mark XP.
Yeah.
Now you can have that go off, but I'm going to choose 2 drawbacks if you want that to go off.
I want it.
You want it to go off. So I think that there will be this burning voice in your head that says, the pact is made. And I think also you're going to mark a level of harm as this burning elemental sensation runs through you, and you vanish from sight in a burst of flame. When it makes you invisible, it actually does it by essentially burning away your image from the air, and you feel that. And that's where you suffer that harm. And there's that smoke in the air there after that, and you see a pair of what can only be described as goons walking along. They have a crude sketch of your outfit, and they are walking along. They've got swords in sheaths, and they're poking at anybody who's sleeping along here, trying to wake them up, checking them, and moving along. What do you want to do?
I want to tail them so they lead me back to their employer.
Absolutely. Then let us, what does this seem like would be good? I think you can do that. I think you can tail them because you're invisible. That's not going to be a problem. The problem will be when we get there. But that is, let's say that you are on your way to that. Damsa, let's come to you then. Let me check one thing here. Damsa, where do you sleep?
I ostensibly sleep in one of the drains, but of course that set of drains does connect to the library, because all the drains do, and so I tend to appear to go to rest in a drain, but then I scurry along to my sanctuary, the library, routinely.
And tell me what your library looks like. Like when you go into it, when the camera lights into it, what do we see?
I think it is a vaulted sewer, if you will, but through which no sewage runs. I think it's probably as high as it is wide. And the terrible thing is that there are no books here.
Were there
because
books
they've
here
all been-
ever?
Say again?
Were there books here ever?
Well, yes, of course, because it's the library, but they've been taken. You know, this is the current library. Once the central spire of learning was the city's library, but when the scholars moved in and defeated the librarians in the war for knowledge, the stories go, what is now an oral tradition pretty much, says that the books were gradually, you know, we got some of them away, and then a generation later there's a purge, and that library is largely, and we get some of those away until, no, I tell you what, there is a single book. There is a single book. There is always one book, and the one book is the book compiled by the master librarian of everything about their life and the life of their apprentice. And so until I become master librarian, I cannot begin my book. And so I still have Gajendra's book.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where his soul is embodied. And that's what I have to get to the top of the central spire of learning to fulfill my promise to Gajendra.
And you mentioned there's an ancient device here, right?
There is. Well,
what is that?
As I say, it appears that there's nothing here apart from fairly low quality living accommodation. So a pallet bed, a cot. There is certainly a desk with writing equipment and parchment or paper. I don't know quite. I think probably paper. But I know where the Tome of Secrets is hidden behind one of the loose bricks here. And it is guarded by this arcane thing, which may or may not be alive. So wherever the tome goes, it goes.
You are there, you've come back to kind of rest in here. And as you do, you will feel this pressure in your mind that you will recognize as someone attempting to open magical communication with you.
I think that books are about communication. Librarians never turn down a conversation.
Okay. Then you will open your mind to it, and to be a crackle in the air, and you will see this image of this cross-legged wizardy type. The robes sell it. The beard, the one eye violet, the other eye gray. They're cross-legged and kind of floating in the air, and they say, "Are you Damsa?"
Who's asking?
Interesting. My name is Harbinger Whitened Wave.
Hail and well met, Harbinger.
So, I wanted to reach out to you because I have heard that you might have a particular soul.
Where might you have heard that, oh mystic Harbinger?
I am a magic user. I am a mage, a magi. Plus I keep my ears on the market for things when there are forces that are hunting for valuable items. And I like to be first in to maybe see if I can cut a deal.
What deal do you have in mind?
Well, it seems I've heard that a few people are very interested in said soul, that there's some debts owed on it. and I wonder if we might come to an accommodation. I could offer you gold or services, and to do that, or perhaps we could simply go and split the money.
Where could we meet in the real world, O Harbinger?
You are not in the real world?
Well, you are speaking to my mind, O Harbinger.
Oh,
I prefer to deal with people in the concrete.
I'm so much up in my own head, I often forget. I tell you what, let us meet at the Golden Siren. It is a place of great beauty and has fine, delicious ribs, which I truly enjoy.
When?
What time is it now?
I think it's late, O Harbinger, for I have returned from a hard day of sewer cleaning.
It is no worry. My sense of smell is long gone. But let us say the midday then. That will give you plenty of time to prepare yourself and such.
Indeed, I will see you on the morrow at the Golden Siren.
Yes.
Ribs are on you.
That seems like a fair exchange. Farewell.
Farewell, O Harbinger.
And he does that thing that wizards do where they have to end the conversation with like a flash and a flare and a little sigil that goes out there. And then boop, and all gone. Yeah.
This is bad news. Because I don't trust him as far as I could throw an ethereal mage.
Fair enough.
And so instead of enjoying a relaxing evening with my master's book and soul, I think I am going to head off through the sewers in search of someone who I think owes me a favor.
And who would that be?
I think that would be Opal Ocean.
Okay. Opal, tell me about your well-appointed, illustrious, beautiful living quarters. You're a guild person. You start by default with a good place to live. What is your place that you live like?
I think Opal had many choices for lodging, but she likes to live close to work. So she lives at a loft above one of the nicer taverns close to the upper tier. That's ostensibly run by probably some sort of tavern guild. Probably not some sort of tavern guild. That sounds more like a union, which they essentially are. But yeah, I think I live in a private loft atop this tavern called the Color of Dusk.
Is it that you have to go through the tavern to get to it? Is it that you have back stairs? How does that work?
There is an ominous back door that no one's allowed through under pain of, well, lots of pain.
Okay. And how would someone get your attention if they arrived at your domicile?
Well, normally they'd have to talk to one of my underlings, see if I'm busy or not. But I'm sure Dabs has figured out a way through them.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. What is the decoration or thing that is not purely functional that we see here in your room?
I think it is there is a tapestry in my walls. Like most of the decorations probably I have in my room are kind of like locked up stuff that are like behind glass cases or behind cabinets or whatnot. But there's this like this old faded tapestry of what looks to be like a map of the city like 1,000 years ago, and it is of a shape that is unfamiliar to anyone who would look at it. And it's
a rare and expensive item that you have.
Yeah, it's a nice reminder of how much things can change over time.
Damsa, how do you get in to see Opal?
Can Opal describe their kind of living room, this loft living room with a view over the city? Am I getting the right picture?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm imagining definitely like very nice, like some well pointed like sort of couches. There's the tapestry, and there's an opening out to a balcony, looking out to the city, and you can hear. I'm imagining this city. You always hear the ocean, no matter where you go, no matter up high or down low. The ocean always finds you. So I'm imagining like there's a nice carpet. There's like a couple cabinets with like some books that look far too expensive to be pulled out and read. And who knows? They might not even be books. There might be things hidden in there. I think, and there's I'm just imagining a living room. There's a nice coffee table in the middle.
Okay. And presumably you're sat on a comfortable chair enjoying the view and a glass of wine.
No, I think I'm brooding.
Oh,
brooding over the city.
Brooding works. We know the city has advanced technology, so you hear the sound of a flushing toilet, and Damsa emerges from your bathroom.
Do you mind if I ask you to flush again?
No messing about now, Opal. I've come to call in a favor.
I'm not turning around. I'm at the balcony looking over the city. That pose, or both hands on the balcony. Well, considering how much I owe you, this better be a damn good. This better be something good. See something interesting.
Well, look, I think I'm in trouble, and I need the kind of protection only you can either provide or buy.
I think I turn around and kind of cross my arms, and now I'm smirking a bit. Now, what kind of trouble would a night-soiled janitor be caught up in?
You know there's more to me than that, Opal, because what's very clear is that Damsa has an out mode and an in mode. There's the, oh yes sir, I just clear out your drains, and then there is the focused librarian, and I'm thinking of the transition, the bizarre transition of the plumber in Brazil when you suddenly realize it's Robert De Niro. And so there is a light in Damsa's eye and a certainty that he can get what he wants. So Opal, I have got someone after something that's really important to me, and either you help me get it where I need to take it, or you help protect me from the people who are after it.
I kind of want to make Alan roll for this.
Do you want to? Yeah, well, we can turn to our move. There's not a PC to PC thing on this. This is sort of your choice on it. If you want to resist it, we have a move for that.
Oh, I thought the ultimatum could be a PC. If it's NPC only,
let me take a look. That's more. I'm going to do bad things to you if you don't get out of the way.
All right. Well, I was wondering if there is some move that could be rolled, but if not, then I will just play this out. So I think.
You wanted to make Alan roll.
I just wanted to make Alan roll. Yeah. Rolling's nice, it can get you XP. But I think I think Opal kind of rolls her eyes for a bit and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're the most special night soul janitor in this city right now. I get you."
So are you in?
Who's bothering you?
I'm going to cut there on that line. Let us come to our summoned. You have invested in having a place to stay, right?
Yes, yeah.
And what kind of neighborhood and what kind of lodgings do you have?
So I think in general. So yes, yeah, so as I was saying, I think mostly I just end up staying in other people's houses for a while, and I think currently I'm at one of the a sort of a nice apartment somewhere in one of the nicer tiers of the city. You know, not like the very top of you know, not like a penthouse apartment, not in the very highest area, but it's a nice place. I think that they are currently wearing the guise of a kind of middle-aged, distinguished-looking man, salt and pepper hair with sort of frosted temples, nicely curled moustache, and they're cooking a very extravagant breakfast of eggs and, you know, a sauce that contains more eggs than the eggs themselves.
And is someone lent this to you, or is someone that's living there has you as a guest?
Someone has me as a guest, I think. Yeah, yeah.
There's an older gentleman who's been talking at you throughout the course of the bus, and then we went to the student, and I think, you know, and one of this is with a little bit of this, and then meringue.
Yes, of course, my dear. Please, and then I'll walk over to sort of the table carrying 2 plates of breakfast and put one in front of him and sit down.
So did your day, and then you're planning on with the things around as it be?
Well, you know, I thought I might go into town later, see what's going on. There must be, you know, something new going on, something to find, something to do, people to meet. You know how these things are.
Yes, I was going to give a little more of the gin.
Well, I'd say it's a little early, but well, why not? Might as well treat ourselves, eh?
And you'll report, and you begin to hear that clearly one of these unusual weather systems has settled in here. What is the sound that you hear, and what does that indicate to you?
Yeah, so I think it's that kind of whistling sound of like very strong wind, especially where it's like coming in between sort of these tower blocks. So it's like creating that real wind tunnel effect. But there's also like the rattling sound as hail is battering against the windows of the apartment.
And what is the sound that tells you that someone has picked a very bad time to try and break in through that window?
I think there's just like that like squeaking sound of a suction cup like sliding across the now slightly icy plate glass windows as the wind picks up as well.
And it's still so somewhat dark, dimly lit, and you can look over and you will see this figure trying to pull itself back from that to get back onto the ledge, and even as the hail is hitting it, it's clearly trying to pop the lock bar on that window. What would you do?
I'm going to say, oh, it seems we have a visitor. Do stay here a moment. I'll go and deal with them. And I will wander over to the window, you know, unlock it and open and say, Yes. Is there anything I can do to help?
And you will startle this figure who is caught between trying to sneak in and trying to hang precariously onto the ledge, and you will see they've got a black, sash across their face in a sinister way, but they're also shivering from the cold, and you will see them kind of grab on and kind of reach in as if to say, "Please help me in."
And yeah, I'll let out a sigh. Say, oh, you'll catch your death out there. Do come inside. We'll run you a bath or something. And I'll offer my hand to them.
And you can pull them in, and they'll kind of settle there. And you see them like eyeing you, like you're pretty sure that they're looking for you. They're trying to play it coy, like, "Oh, thank you. I don't know why I was on the ledge of this room," kind of thing. But they clearly eyeing you like you're who they're there for.
And I think I'll wander over back to the kitchen. I'll come back with a mug of coffee and hand it them and say, "Now, do you wish to tell me exactly what it is you were doing outside the window on such an inclement day?"
Good sir, I apologize for this. I am an enthusiast of what is known as parkour. It is an activity, and as I was moving between buildings, I was unfortunately beset by a rapid change in climate, and so when I reached your window, which was lit, and I felt some warmth from it, I thought this might be a place to stay. And when I tried the window, it did not open, and so I was attempting to perhaps open it, and I did not mean to intrude upon your domicile.
Can you tell me more about this parkour you speak of? It sounds most intriguing.
You can run between buildings and jump about, and it's very it's calisthenic.
And you do that for fun?
Yes.
It does sound quite exhilarating, I must say.
You're kind of intense, and you see him kind of backing down. He's like, yes, it is. May I have some more coffee?
Of course. Please, do take a. No, you are quite damp. You're best off not sitting on any of the soft furnishings, but
yes. And he kind of stands, and you will realize as you kind of turn, you've got the coffee, that he is moving in motion, like he's about to do something to you. What would you do?
I think I will turn back around and just say, "Oh, please, we're having such a lovely time. Let's not do anything to spoil it, eh?"
Let's have you roll risk, because he is trying to do something to you.
Sure thing.
Go ahead and roll with your joy.
Yep. That is an 11.
That is an 11. You turn around and step back. You make it look incredibly graceful. He has this pair of silver scissors out, and you see that he was clearly reaching up to try and cut a lock of your hair.
Oh, now, come. If you wish that, then, well, you will have to ask. It's very important.
Well, perhaps I should see myself out.
Whatever you wish. It was nice to meet you.
Yes, I will go. Thank you.
And yeah, I will open the door for him to leave.
And you can see across the street several other people dressed like him, like huddling in a corner, like watching, like waiting to see. And you let him out, and they try to hide behind barrels or whatever in the hail, and this guy kind of sulkily walks across the street, having failed at his appointed mission to garner a lock of your hair. Probably a cart goes by, splashes him with icy water as well, just to compliment the scene. We'll come back to you. Well, we may not come back to you. We'll see. Actually, you know, we're set up for things here. We're about a quarter till. We've got our mage following people back. We've got Damsa and Opal set up to go someplace. We have seen that our summoned has seen that Grimfinger has sent some lackeys. Has decided apparently that acquiring components from you is the next stage in the process. So I think we're going to stop there. Let's go ahead and give everybody, since it's a short truncated thing, I'll give you 2 extra XP, and we'll do a full XP thing at the end of next session. Sound good? Starting next session, we'll also stop, check in, and make sure everybody's happy with the choices that they've made. And if not, we can switch things around. If you want to change moves around, stats, whatever, we'll do that. And that'll be on the table. Thank you all very much. I'm going to stop the broadcast.
This is a production of The Gauntlet.
Yes. Shout that out.